Hello everyone, welcome to BYJU'S classes. Prelims is approaching, and if we look at the previous year question papers of prelims, one very important ingredient is coming, that is of map work. We did it last year also, and again we are doing it, where we'll be talking about everything that is important from the perspective of map. But then this time we shall be doing it at a much larger scale, and that's why we shall be dividing the whole thing into two parts. In the first part, we shall be talking about all the parts of the world except Asia, including India. And in the second part, we shall be talking specifically about India and the Asian countries. Why are we doing this? Because last year, if you look at the focus of the question of UPSC, it was more about India. So we'll be giving a lot of prominence this time when we are doing the map work with regards to all those things which might have been very simple and mundane looking, but then it may fetch us a few marks in this exam. So without wasting the time, let's start with North America first. Now, if you look at the political map of North America, this is your third largest continent of the world after Asia as well as Africa. Now, as you can see, the major countries of this particular block is your Canada, is your USA, is Mexico, and then you have other countries which you can see here in Central America, countries like Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, and then some other countries of this particular zone which we can group and call as your West Indies, countries like Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago. So overall, there are some countries which are totally independent, around 23 such countries, and then there are some countries which are dependent on others. Two things that you should remember here. The southernmost country of this particular block is Panama, and you can see Greenland, though it belongs to Denmark, physically is a part of your North America. Now, one thing that you can look in the west, this particular continent is surrounded by Pacific, in the east surrounded by Atlantic, in the south by Gulf of Mexico, and in the north it's surrounded by Arctic Ocean. So this way this is surrounded from all sides. Let us start with the first country of this block, that is your Canada. Now, Canada, as you all know, is known as your land of lilies or land of your maple. Now, this is the second largest country of the world after your Russia, with its capital at a place called Ottawa. Now, if you look at this political map of Canada, it's divided into different territories or states, and what we shall be doing is we shall be moving one by one in this manner. But before I enter into this, always remember for prelims, Canada has the largest coastline in the entire world, around 96,500 kilometers, the longest in the world. So let us start with British Columbia, which has its capital at a place called Victoria, which is the biggest naval and the fishing port of this particular state of Canada. Another important place in this place is your Vancouver, which is very famous for the lumbering activities, which you understand, the activity of cutting the wood and using it for things like paper production. Along with that, it is also very famous for the fact that it is the most important center on the western side of Canada for fishing activities. If we move towards eastern side, what we find is there is a state called Alberta with its capital at Edmonton, the largest prairie town, Praierie, the largest prairie town of this Canada, one of the most important grasslands in the northern hemisphere. If we move towards your eastern further portions, I'm leaving this particular state, I'm moving to your Manitoba, now with its capital at Winnipeg, one of the biggest centers of the wheat in entire world. Further moving east, you can see I come to the state of Ontario, which has its capital of the Canada, Ottawa. It is the administrative capital of Canada. But then this state also has got Toronto, we all know, a place which has got large number of Indian diaspora, and this is the largest town of Canada. Further moving east, we reach to the state of Quebec with its capital at the same namesake, Quebec. Now, Quebec is famous for being the first settlement town in Canada. Quebec also has Montreal, which is the Canada's largest seaport. Moving eastward, we reach to areas that are Newfoundland and Labrador. Now, we all would have studied about this. Basically, this is a very productive zone for fishing activities, mainly on account of the fact that it has got a very large continental shelf. And there are other factors too in this. Lastly, one more place that you can see is Nova Scotia, a place famous for apples as well as fishing port. Now, moving ahead from Canada, we move towards your America, that is United States of America. You can see this particular map. Now, we all know this is the fourth largest country of the world. This fourth largest country, that is Russia, then Canada, then China, and now comes your USA. Now, we all know this particular country is divided into 50 such states, and all the states except one state, that is Hawaii, are in the mainland. Hawaii is island. Now, the biggest state in this country, as we all know, is Alaska, though not directly associated with the mainland USA, but then it is part of mainland, which is separated by Russia by a very small waterfront, which we shall see later. The smallest state of this country is your Rhode Island. The state of California is the most populated state in this particular country. Now, just as we had looked into the important towns of your Canada, now let us look into important towns of your USA. Now, we shall start from here. That is your California, the first state, having two very important cities. One being your San Francisco, which is the largest port on the Pacific. Apart from San Francisco being the largest port, San Francisco is also known for the Silicon Valley. Another important town of California is your Los Angeles, the second largest populated city of this country after New York, and also very famous for its film industry. Let us move towards north, that is Oregon, which is known for its shipbuilding industries. Moving further north, we reach your Washington, having a very important town here, that is your Seattle, which is known for aircraft building industries. Moving eastern side, we reach your Montana. This state is known for being one of the largest reserves of copper. If we move downwards, we reach Wyoming, the state which is known for its geyser, that is Old Faithful, which erupts after every 63 minutes. Moving south, we reach your Colorado state, which has its capital at Denver, which is known for its oil refining industry. In south, you have Arizona with its capital at Phoenix, known for the fact that it is one of the largest producers of aluminum and iron steel manufacturing centers. We move towards east, which to a state called Texas, a state which is known for its ship rearing and also the state which has the largest reserves of oil as far as US is concerned. Moving east, we reach your state of Illinois, which is famous for the town of Chicago, the focal point of all the movements of transport as far as US is concerned. Moving ahead, we go to Michigan, which has a very important town known as Detroit, which is very famous for its automobile centers in and out of USA. Then we have the state of your New York, which is the largest port in USA, situated on the banks of river Hudson. This is the most populated town of this country and also the town known for its skyscrapers. Then we have in south the state named as Pennsylvania, very famous for the fact that the world's first drilling for oil was done in a place in Pennsylvania, the place being known as Stittsville. Apart from this, you can see the capital of this country, Washington, D.C., being on this side that you can see here, that is towards the side of Atlantic. And lastly, let us have a look about two important centers of USA, that is Hawaii as well as Alaska. Hawaii, with its capital at Honolulu, was the 50th state and the last state to join the Union. It's an example of your shield volcano and entirely made up of basalt. The capital city of Honolulu is known as the crossroad of the Pacific. Alaska, the largest state of US, is a state which represents your tundra climate. Let us start talking about the physical features of North America. And here I will start with your Great Lakes. You can see here, there are 5 lakes here. Now, the first lake is this one. The second is this. The third being this one. The fourth being this. And the fifth being this. The 5 lakes being, this is your Lake Superior. This being your Lake Michigan. This third one being your Lake Huron. The fourth one being Erie. And the last one being Ontario. 5 lakes. If you go ahead and if you have to remember, you can remember H for Huron, O for Ontario, M for Michigan, E for Erie, and S for Superior. Now understand, this Superior Lake, Superior is the second largest lake in the world after your Caspian Sea. That your second lake, that is Lake Michigan, is the only lake out of all these 5 lakes that is entirely within USA. If you look at Lake Ontario, it is the smallest of all the 5 lakes. If you look at Lake Erie, it is a lake on which important towns like Denver, Buffalo are located. Moving ahead from the lakes, let's see what all seas are around this particular continent. One of the most important which may be asked in your prelims is your Bering Sea, the sea which is dividing your Russian mainland from your Alaska. Now, this Bering Sea is very clearly west of Alaska between North America and your Asia. Then another sea that you can see is your Beaufort Sea, which is north of your country, that is Canada. Another important thing that you can see is this is your Baffin Bay between your Baffin Island and your Greenland. Then another very important is your Hudson Bay, which is north of your Canada. Then very important sea is your Labrador Sea, which you can see is east of this place, that is Canada, your Labrador area. Very important center, another Gulf is very important, Gulf of Mexico. Also important for the fact that your river Mississippi, which is one of the most important rivers of your America, flows into this Mexico's Gulf. Another important Gulf is here, that is called your Gulf of Campeche. It is eastern side of your Mexico. Another Gulf very important is this one, your Gulf of California, that is between your Lower California and your Western Mexico. Another important Gulf is this Gulf of Alaska, that is your south of Alaska mainland. Let us look at a few straits. For example, this is your Florida Strait. Now, the area, the strait which divides your Florida and Cuba. Another very important strait is your Davis Strait, the area that divides your Baffin Islands and your Greenland. And lastly, you have the Bering Strait that divides your Russia as well as your Alaska. Now, one thing that you should keep in mind is which is on which side of ocean. That is, you should keep in mind that is, let's say, Alaska or your California, all this Gulf, your Bering Sea, Bering Strait, all these are on the side of your Pacific. And do remember that Labrador of Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean Sea, or these are on the side of your Atlantic. Let us look at a few important mountain ranges of America. You can see here you have a Brooks Range. Below that you can see you have Alaska Range. Then you have 3 almost parallel ranges, one being your coastal ranges, another being your Cascades, then your Rocky Mountains, also one being your Sierra Nevada. All these are all on your western side of your this continent, and they either extend into both the countries or only one of them. For example, Alaska Range has your Mount McKinley, which is the highest peak of your North America continent. You can see we also have the Canadian Shield, which are made up of Precambrian rocks, and thus they are very, very rich sources of your different types of minerals. On the eastern side, you have another example of mountains, that is your Appalachian Mountains. Again, an example of Fold Ridge Mountains, very old and extend from Quebec in Canada to Alabama in USA. Let us have a look at your Middle America. Now, as you can see, Middle America starts from your Mexico and goes till your Panama, the northernmost country and the southernmost country. Your Middle America is comprising of your one country, that is Mexico, the largest country in area as well as population in this region. Then lots and lots of countries of your Central America, the small Central American countries. And the third grouping in this region are your Caribbean islands, which are in this region in the Sea of Caribbean. Now, if we talk about this, if you are considering right from Mexico till Panama, it is Middle America. And if you don't consider Mexico and you are considering only from Guatemala to Panama, then it becomes your Central America. Now, one very important thing that you need to remember about these 7 countries of your Central America are that 5 of these countries have their coast on both the sides of Pacific as well as Atlantic, and 2 of them have their coast on only one side. If you look, you have Guatemala. Now this has coast on both the sides. Then you have Honduras, the green one. This has coast on both the sides. Then you have Nicaragua. You can see coast on both the sides. Costa Rica, coast on both the sides. Panama, coast on both the sides. So rather remembering which countries had coast on both the sides, just remember the country which has coast on only that eastern side, that is Atlantic, is your Belize. And the country which has coast only on your western side is the country your El Salvador. Now, talking about Mexico, triangular shaped country south of your USA, looks small on your map, but then it is a very big country, almost 8 times the size of your UK. Leading producer of many minerals like your silver, sulfur, then also very important producer of your oil, capital city being Mexico City. Another country that you need to remember is your Panama, the southernmost country of this region and situated between your Costa Rica and Colombia. In your Caribbean islands, there might be many islands, but one of the most important one is your Cuba. We all remember it for your Fidel Castro. Cuba, with its capital at Havana, is world's largest sugar producer. Along with that, Cuba's Havana is also a very important port as well as seaport town of this country.